Hello, welcome to Bob's Dungeon. My name's Bob. I'll be your host. I'm pretty sure all of you out there have heard ghost stories before, and have probably even told ghost stories. Have you ever played in a ghost themed role playing game? Have you ever wondered what you would do in a ghost story? Have you wondered what you would do if you were the ghost in a ghost story? In this video, we're going to talk about a game that should answer those questions for you. We're going to talk about Wraith The Oblivion 2nd Edition. This book has 290 pages and a copyright of 1998. It was published by White Wolf Publishing, and all the artwork in this book is in black and white. So let's go ahead and look at that artwork. All of the artwork in this book is in black and white. And it's all pretty decent. And the artwork goes a long way to setting a proper tone and mood for this game. It's even got a few comic book-like pages to tell the story and show how the rules work in this game. All in all, I really enjoy the artwork in this book. To use this book, all you need is a copy of this core rule book and as many 10-sided dice as you can get your hands on. And this book pretty much follows the standard rules that White Wolf uses for character creation. First, you pick a nature and demeanor for your character, and there are personality archetypes that you can use for each of these. And your nature is pretty much how your character is on the inside, how he feels and so forth. And your demeanor is what you present to the rest of the world, what you show others. And they can be the same thing, but usually they're different. And then after that, you pick different aspects for your character. You have the life aspect, which basically tells what your character did with their life. And it could be just a one-word statement, like your character was an artist, a musician, a politician, a family man, just how your character spent their life. And after that, you pick your character's death, which is how they died. Getting shot, thrown off a building, car crash, hit by a train, jet explosion, something. How they died. After that, you pick a regret. And your regret is why you're a wraith, why you stuck around. And it could be because of love. It could be because you didn't finish your novel. You didn't get revenge or something. Something kept you around. That's what your regret is. After that, you figure out your abilities for your character. And like all White Wolf games, there are 3 sets of abilities in this game, each of which have 3 abilities, giving you a total of 9 abilities. There are your physical abilities, which is strength, dexterity, and stamina. There are your social abilities, which are charisma, manipulation, and appearance. And then there are your mental abilities, which is perception, intelligence, and wits. Each of these have a rating from 1 to 5 dots. You get 1 dot for free in each of them. And then you pick a category to be your primary category. Be it your physical, your mental, or your social. One of these is most important to you, one of these categories. And in that category, you get 7 dots split up amongst the attributes under it. Your next most important, you get 5 attributes to split up amongst the attributes under it. And for the last category, you get 3 dots to split up amongst the abilities under it. After you figure out your abilities, you figure out your attributes. And your attributes are broken up into 3 categories. And there are your talents, which are things that come natural to you that you've worked to improve over time. And then there are your skills, which are things that you've trained to do. They don't necessarily come naturally, but you've trained and focused to do them. And then you have your knowledges, which are things that you've studied, book smarts, that kind of thing. And like abilities, your attributes are ranked from 1 to 5 dots, but you don't get any freebie dots in any of these. But you pick a priority category, either talents, skills, or knowledges, and your most important gets 13 dots to split up amongst what's under there. And you don't have to put a dot in everything, just dots in what is important to your character. Your next important gets 9 dots, and your least important gets 5 dots. After you get your abilities together, your attributes together, you'll then get 5 dots for Arcana. Arcana are the Wraith's powers, and there's a whole description of them in here. And the Arcana are linked to guilds, and the guilds were supposedly done away with a long time ago, even though the guilds are still around. But any Wraith can learn any Arcana, supposedly. After you got your Arcana, you get 7 points for backgrounds, and there are different backgrounds in here. And you got 7 dots to split up amongst them. And after your backgrounds, you have passions. You get 10 points to split up amongst passions. And the passions are kind of what drives your Wraith. What gives him the ability to gain pathos. And it's usually something that's tied to an emotion. And it could be listening to music, which could be tied to happiness, or being drawn to a couple in love, and that could be love, or however you wish to word it. But your passion's tied to an emotion, and when you're around that, you can gain pathos. And after your passions, you got 10 dots to split up amongst fetters. And fetters are items that were important to you in your life that now tie you to the real world. You have your favorite book, your house, a person, a place, something. But it was important to you. The more dots you put in that item, the more important it is. And these items are important for you to visit the physical world, or go to the Shroud, or go to the Shadowlands. And after that, there's pathos. And your pathos, you got 5 dots in pathos, plus whatever your memoriam score is. And memoriam is a background you can buy to boost up your pathos at character creation. And it does some other things. After that, you get 5 points for willpower, and then you get 15 points in freebie points to split up to buy new dots and everything. And everything costs a different amount of dots. After that, your Wraith is pretty much complete except for a shadow. And a shadow is like a voice inside the Wraith's head that compels him to do horrible things, compels him to help Oblivion out, compels him just horribly. It can really mess with the Wraith. And they got rules for creating the shadow in here. And it's pretty simple. Basically, you pick an archetype, and they got some shadow archetypes in here. You pick some dark passions, which are usually mirror images of your Wraith's passions. And then you figure out its angst. And then it gets 10 freebie points to buy more stuff. And it's got thorns too. Thorns are the shadow's powers that it can use to harm you and do things. And the way the shadow works, portion of the character works, is either the game master can play the shadows for all the players, or he can have the players hand their shadow out to other players, and other players play the character's shadow, which I think gets a little confusing, but you can do it however you want. I prefer the game master controlled method. And after that, your Wraith is pretty much complete. The basic rules in this game are pretty standard for White Wolf. And basically, when you go to do a task, you add an ability and an attribute together to come up with a die pool. The number of dots in your ability, and the number of dots in your attribute are added, and those number of dots are how many dice you roll. And you roll that number of 10-sided dice with the difficulty come up with by your game master, which is usually from 2 to 10. And the more successes you get, the better you've accomplished the task. And that's pretty much it. But if you roll a 10, that's an automatic success. And if you roll a 1, that's a botch, and a 1 gets rid of a 10. That's the way it is in normal White Wolf rules. And combat works pretty much the same as other White Wolf games at this time, except Wraiths have a weird way of doing damage. If something in the physical world hits them, they'll take 1 point of corpus damage. Instead of wounds, the Wraiths have corpus. You've got 10 points of corpus. And as that goes down, your Wraith is in worse shape. But if something physical hits them, they only take a point. But if something in the spirit world hits them, in the Shadowlands, like another Wraith, or if a supernatural creature hits them, they'll take full damage. And if it's a supernatural creature or a special Stygian made blade, then they'll take aggravated damage. And they can take aggravated damage from fire, but mostly everything's just standard damage for them. And they can heal back their corpus by spending pathos. And you gain more pathos by making passions check when you're in the presence of your passion. So that's pretty cool. And other than that, there's an equipment table in here for weapons and stuff you could use. And, you know, there's special blades made out of Stygian steel and other wraiths and stuff in this book that you can acquire. And that's kind of cool. You could even have a gun in the spirit world, but good luck finding bullets. There are rules in here for what's called the Forge, and the Forge is used to shape wraiths into other useful items, such as swords, bricks, coins, and this is usually meted out as a punishment. But sometimes some wraiths will go out and capture new wraiths as they're tearing out of their shroud and put them in cuffs and bring them back to be forged into things. And this is horrible, and at the same time it's also good because it keeps Oblivion at bay. As wraiths are destroyed, they feed Oblivion, and Oblivion becomes more powerful. Oblivion's the end of all things. And Wraith takes place usually in the Shadowlands, which is a mirror image of the real world. The Wraiths can see us, but we can't see them, that kind of thing. And it can also take place in a place called Stygia, which is this city of the dead on an island out in the middle of the Tempest. And Tempest is just this rolling storm out there in the Deadlands. And there are byways that are safe passages through the Tempest. And you can follow them or find renegades that'll lead you for a price. And there are storms called millstorms that roll off the Tempest sometimes and come out of the void. And they can be pretty hectic for Wraiths. Wraiths, when they lose all the corpus, they go into a harrowing state. And there's other things that can send them into harrowing states. And it gives rules in here for role-playing that out. And it's a horrifying event that can destroy your character. And there are other creatures that you can run into. They got some rules in here for vampires and werewolves and mages. And then there's specters. A specter is a wraith whose shadow has completely taken over permanently, and the Wraith has been destroyed. And now the shadow works to help Oblivion out. And that's pretty neat. And like I said, the shadow he tries to take over the Wraith, and in certain circumstances he can take over the Wraith temporarily. And when that happens, either the game master plays him or the player playing the shadow plays him. However, the system you use is. And there's a lot to it. There's a lot of different points, and there's a lot of stuff I'm not really saying because there's just so much to this game. This is probably one of my favorite games in the old World of Darkness, even though I've really never gotten the chance to play it much. I think I've played it twice, and the last time I played it was like 20 years ago. So that's pretty sad. But it brings me to 3 questions. Would I play a character in this game? I don't really do the old World of Darkness much anymore, but I would definitely play a Wraith if given the chance. Would I run this game? Again, I really don't do the World of Darkness anymore, the old World of Darkness anymore, but if I found a group that wanted to play Wraith, I would probably run it. Would I recommend this book? As far as the old World of Darkness goes, I would definitely recommend looking into this book. It's different. It's interesting. There's a lot to it, and it just takes you in this really weird journey that the others really don't. You don't really get to interact with the others except for using certain powers. So it's really hard to incorporate Wraith into your regular World of Darkness games. It can be done, but it's a little difficult. And that's pretty much all I got to say for Wraith the Oblivion right now. Thank you for joining me on a look at this game, and hopefully you'll join me next time where we'll talk about something else. Bye.